Always a pleasure to have you on. I am Pius Kojo Baka. To our very first story, government is working to finalize modalities with bilateral creditors on restructuring of the country's external debts. This was captured in an update released by the IMF on the Ghana's program with the fund. My colleague George Yafe has more.
IMF in the document indicated that this is the next line of action for government when it comes to reaching a deal with the bilateral creditors on restructuring of the country's external debts. This should mean that Ghana should agree with the creditors under the G20 framework on how the debt restructuring should be carried out in line with the IMF program. This is one of the critical benchmarks that should be completed in the coming weeks to ensure that Ghana is able to get the next tranche of funds under the IMF program. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, at the recent program indicated that Ghana is soon to sign a memorandum of understanding with these external creditors on restructuring of the country's debts. The IMF in the country report has also revealed that Ghana is engaging the private creditors to also seek relief on possible restructuring of the country's debts.
Now, economist and professor of finance at the University of Ghana, Professor Bokpin, says measures by the International Monetary Fund will negatively impact the business environment. He suggests the government cuts down wasteful expenditure and tackle corruption as the state loses millions of cedis to illegal mining activities. Love FM's Mona Lisa Frimpong has more.
Professor Bokpin was speaking at the second edition of the Access Bank and Graphic Business SME Fair in the Ashanti region. The fair themed running sustainable businesses in a challenging economic environment landscape brought together businesses who were taken through a mini clinic session and exhibited products to attract customers. According to The Economist, business owners are worried about the unfriendly business climate in the country.
And in Ghana, we talk about enabling environment, but we have not even costed it. We don't know what it is. If inflation comes down to 18%, is that an enabling environment? If interest rate is 20%, above 20%, is that an enabling environment? That is not. How do we bring inflation to below 8%? How do we bring interest rate to below 8%? I hope you understand that. And extend maturity profile of lending. Go to Côte d'Ivoire and see inflation is less than 6%. Interest rate is less than 10%. These are just our neighbors. I hope you understand that.
Some business owners raised concerns about the competition of made-in-Ghana products and similar products from foreign companies on the Ghanaian market. Regional manager of the Association of Ghana Industries, Thompson Atibila, wants policies and deliberate initiatives to encourage the use of made-in-Ghana products to strengthen SMEs.
And we are competing globally. As one of the presenters mentioned, we need deliberate policies to create millionaires and international businesses. We have to start from home. If we are able to even furnish only our local assemblies, their offices, with made-in-Ghana products or items, you can imagine the level of market we can create for the SMEs. We know some of our sister countries have closed their borders just to strengthen their local businesses so they can also export. What are we also doing? It seems our market is too open.
Professor Bokpin observed businesses are losing the tendency to employ.
Government itself is not going to create jobs. It's the private sector. It's the businesses. So if you see that businesses are complaining, all is not well in the country. If you see that businesses can't expand, they can't employ, you should know the country is heading dangerously. You understand that? If we say US is doing well, it's because their businesses are doing well. Their citizens are getting employment. That is what we call a country is doing well. A country is not doing well if it's only politicians who are making it. If it's only politicians who can build big houses and own big cars, there's a problem in that country. What it means is that everybody will abandon business and join politics. And in Ghana, everybody wants to join politics. Because within 4 years, you get your V8, S Gracia, you are okay, right? That's why everybody believes in politics.
For Joy Business, Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
A while longer on the economy, and the International Monetary Fund has proffered 3 policies, including acquisitions and measures of banks and non-banks to mitigate the possible systematic financial instability in Ghana. Well, these policies, captured under the risk assessment metrics contained in the recent IMF country report on Ghana, aim to mitigate risks and ensure the stability of the banking and non-bank financial institutions. Now, the first policy suggests strengthening financial safety nets and closely monitoring the liquidity and asset liquidity of banks and, of course, non-bank financial institutions. Now, the second policy involves designing an appropriate strategy to recapitalize banks and NBFIs. And lastly, the IMF encourages acquisitions and measures as a means to address any necessary consolidation in the financial space. And it is important that we make sense out of these. And let's go to Zoom now and speak to the director at Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, for more analysis on this development. Pleasure you could join me, sir, on Business Live. Now, I'm pretty sure you've seen the proposals, and what do you make of them?
Good evening, and good evening to all your listeners and your viewers. Listen, the proposal is a good idea. Our financial sector is in trouble, and the trouble spans many years, and the domestic debt exchange program was the latest in a series of blows that the financial sector has received. And so the idea of mergers, acquisitions makes absolute sense. We don't want to go through the financial sector cleaning that we did that cost the public purse. We want to make the strong stronger by tagging along the weak, if I may say so. And so I welcome this news, and I hope we'll see the fine details of this in the very near future.
But Mr. Jackson, really, do you think the market is ready for these measures?
You see, the financial sector cannot always wait for the market. That's why we have a regulator. The regulator has a total overview of what's happening. And the regulator and other independent observers may intervene to make sure that the market is stable and that depositors' funds are protected and that the market doesn't collapse. So if the regulator and the IMF, with a bird's eye view, has seen this, which some of us industry players have suspected for some time, it's fine. Let's go ahead.
All right. So
this is a financial sector. The financial sector respects size. So it is better to have fewer, stronger players than a large number of weak players.
What do you tell those who might argue that, look, we should allow market development to force these companies or financial institutions to merge rather than call a regulatory intervention?
Listen, the waiting for markets to intervene may take too long. And in the process, the financial markets may suffer damage. So it's okay for the regulator to come in and say, listen, I don't like the state of your balance sheets. I don't like the state of your finances. And so I'm going to encourage you guys to merge, acquire each other, to move forward.
Really, this is coming on the back of the domestic debt exchange program. And of course, people will argue that really it has nothing to do with the banks. But of course, the domestic debt exchange program, should government rather step in to recapitalize these banks?
Listen, if the government had money, that would be okay. But the government is broke. It's so broke that it needed the domestic debt exchange program in order to pay its bills. How can we, with the same voice, ask the same government to help recapitalize the banks? It's not realistic. If they have to recapitalize, all you're going to have to do is to go and borrow again. So if there's another solution where the regulator and other authorities move the institutions along so that we get stronger institutions, I support it.
Already, the IMF has given directive to the Bank of Ghana to ensure that we don't see dividends being paid. Now, isn't this going to be some sort of double agony for them?
No, it's not double agony. We made losses. How can we pay dividends? Anybody who thinks dividends should be paid is not realistic. How can you pay dividends? You can only pay dividends if you made profits. If you made losses, how can you pay dividends? So it's not a matter of double agony. It's a matter of just being realistic as to what is possible. You made losses, you cannot, you should not pay dividends. That's not a matter of the central bank or the IMF. That's a matter of business practice, good business practice.
We do know that the IMF team is in town. What are your expectations?
Well, I strongly believe they are here to follow up on the... Remember that when the IMF deal was signed and announced, there was still a number of I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed. Some to do with pension funds, local pension funds. Some to do with dollar-denominated domestic bonds. Some to do with the US dollar foreign bonds. So there are quite a few things to be done. So I expect this is a follow-up on actions that the government has committed to take.
We are indeed grateful, Joe Jackson, for your time here on Business Live. He is the director at Dalex Finance, speaking to us on the back of the latest development from the IMF to the Bank of Ghana. Let's switch topics now. And policy analyst Dr. Steve Mantell has taken a swipe at the precious minerals marketing company and the government for what he describes as lack of transparency in their procurement processes within the extractive sector of the economy. According to Dr. Steve Mantell, the sector has been bedeviled with corrupt practices which needs to be addressed to save it from collapsing. Now, speaking to Joy Business at the launch of the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative on the oil and gas sector, he charged Parliament to take a keen interest in pushing for a comprehensive report for the gold for oil deal.
The report recommended that any intended benefit from exempting dividends of the special purpose vehicle from taxes ought to be juxtaposed against the cost. According to Dr. Mantiao, there should be a stated reason upon which the stability agreement can be revisited at the instance of any of the parties and include a sunset clause.
There is no disclosure in terms of who is financing the domestic gold purchases. 2, in this transaction, we are going to deploy the services of, or resort to the services of third parties. For instance, who is buying Ghana's gold? I mean, who is selling Ghana's gold on the international market? If it's a broker, then the broker services has to be disclosed and the terms. How much is the broker being paid, okay, for his services? And how does it affect what we receive as a country in terms of returns? Now, you go onto the international market, you buy, you use the proceeds from your gold sales to buy petroleum products. How are you procuring your petroleum products? Is it at a spot price? Is it at a hedge price? What is the terms under which you are procuring your petroleum products? There is no disclosure. So you find that at 3 critical points. First, the gold purchases by PMMC, there is no transparency. In terms of the gold sales, who is buying or helping Ghana to sell its gold, there is no transparency, no disclosures. And how is Ghana procuring its petroleum products? Again, we don't know. And at what cost? At what cost are those facilitating these transactions?
Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Amin Adam, reiterated the ministry's commitment to collaborating with extractive sector players to address some of the critical challenges.
There is need for us to do more in order to meet our fiscal objectives. And so, under the program, we are expected to increase revenue from 15.7% of GDP as of the end of 2022 to 18.7% of GDP by the end of 2026. Similarly, we are to reduce expenditure in shares of GDP from 19.3% by the end of 2022 to 17.2% by the end of 2026. The two together, revenue expansion and contraction in expenditure, will give us a fiscal adjustment of about 5.1 percentage points. That's a huge adjustment. But we have to do what we can to be able to achieve that.
In its final recommendation, the Getty report stated that all dividends due government for mining operations are paid appropriately to Mineral Income Investment Fund as required by the MIIF Act. James Echen's report for Joy Business.
And to some other stories, the Attorney General is reviewing a draft operations and maintenance contract between the Tema oil refinery and a private investor to commence the process of revamping the refinery. According to Deputy Energy Minister Herbert Krapper, once the lawyers and engineers are done with the process, government is hopeful that TOL will begin refining crude in the country. The Deputy Minister said this in an interview at the GNPC and BP Bay Crew 2257 site, where he joined the team to celebrate 3 million man-hours without major accident at the camp.
The team, led by the Deputy Minister of Energy and the CEO of GNPC, were in the northern and Savannah regions to assess the progress of work in the prospecting of oil in the Voltarian Basin. Herbert Krapper said what TOL needs now is investment to put it in shape.
Dream that we discover oil onshore, and therefore means that we have a lot of traffic from international oil companies coming to places such as this to participate and engage in oil trading activities. Good news. And we've seen that the lessons from places such as Tema oil refinery tell us that modern technology is the way. When your machinery are old and your systems are not very functional, we see that there's a lot of wastage. And I think what is important is that we utilize those lessons. Currently, government is, through the Ministry of Energy, is working to bring in a strategic private partner to help to revive TOL. In terms of investment, what is needed in TOL is a matter of investment. And the Attorney General is reviewing the draft operations and maintenance contract. And once the lawyers have ticked it and the engineers, the technical people have ticked it, we hope that we can see a revived TOL.
The CEO of the GNPC, Opoku Ahunie Dankwa, on his part said the project brings huge potentials to the northern and Savannah regions and a game changer for the country.
So drilling a well will allow us to confirm our inferences from what we've done with the seismic. So the goal is to do this as quickly as possible, because whenever you look at the time value of money, the faster we can get oil out of the ground, the better it is for this area and the country. So the goal is to drill hopefully Q1 2024.
The team earlier paid a courtesy call on the Northern Regional Minister, Shani Al-Hassan Shaibu, who assured them of a peaceful environment for work to progress.
Apart from the agricultural activities that we engage in the northern region, we do not have any commercial entities that would engage so many people. So if we do this work properly, I am just imagining the number of people who stand to benefit from this. And let me also assure you that the northern region is very peaceful, very, very peaceful. Those days of those chieftaincy things is over. And I can assure you that we are ready to engage whoever is ready to bring progress and prosperity to our people.
The Deputy Minister for Energy on his part said the Voltarian Basin covers 7 regions and over 200 communities.
Perhaps finally and equally very critically is to take feedback from people like you. Very, very important aspect of the work that is being done. This project, as I understand, covers about 7 regions. The northern region is a significant part of the area that it covers. Northeast as well, Savannah, Ashanti, Bono, Eastern and Oti regions, covering some 200 communities and then a number of districts.
A while longer on tour, an energy strategist, Dr. Yusuf Suleimana, has welcomed plans to revive the Tema oil refinery, saying it is crucial to economic development, bearing in mind current challenges the country is faced with. He urged the government to make the reviving of the refinery a major priority. He spoke earlier on the marketplace.
Indeed, that is so refreshing to hear. Just that I just hope this is not one of the sensational news that we do have, because we've had quite a lot of interesting news with respect to the refinery. But it will start with a bit of vigor and high momentum, then it will just fizzle out. And so I'm just cautioning that and urging that this shouldn't be one of the news that will vaporize into thin air, within a twinkle of an eye. But that said, it's an excellent news. It's an excellent starting point. We just stand by and watch how things will pan out. It's indeed, TOR needs a lot of investment. We have delayed, but never better late than never. Refinery is an important entity in every economic setup, especially in our jurisdiction where we have, we depend about almost 100% importation, and you clearly know how that impacts our local currency. So having a refinery is a need-based, policy intervention, that will cascade overall into your entire economy. And I can tell you, Darrell, on authority, that at this moment in time, TOR struggle to even take service guys to train. Nobody can do internship. Internship is struggling. Internship students are not getting opportunity. Service students are not getting opportunity. And even those who get opportunity, the machines are just as idle as the human beings, which is so unfortunate. And TOR, the guys in TOR are very industrious. They just need to be given the chance to let the refinery run. So yes, that news is an excellent news. And I just hope that the president, take the bull by the horn and get this refinery back to business. And I think it will inure to the benefit of the entire economy.
Thanks so much for watching Business Life with me, Pius Kojo Bakai. There is always business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. We leave you with commodities update.